Why should West Ham go all out and bring Ruben Amorim to the club as their head coach? Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the West Ham Network. I'm here today to give to you a little piece on why I think West Ham should bring in Ruben Amorim as their head coach. Why we should forget every other option and look at this coach as the one that we should target. Now, last week we heard Amorim was on a flight to London. He was in conversations with West Ham. He's now since apologised to the Sporting Lisbon team. I said that news to you yesterday. It's since come out that potentially Chelsea had paid the jet for him to come to London and that they were interested in bringing him in with the news that they might be getting rid of Pochettino soon. But they've since come out apparently and said and denied that as well, denied that option. So reading between the lines and not having some inside knowledge, he obviously, if he has spoken to West Ham, has shown some form of interest in coming to us. Whether or not those negotiations went well, we'll never know. What we do know is he is a man who's got a lot of pride, and his pride's been dented by doing something he probably shouldn't have done. But I think there's a temptation, whether that's West Ham or another club. I do think there could be a temptation. So I did a video last week saying, maybe I don't believe it, but maybe I kind of do. And maybe I'm starting to think maybe I could see why West Ham obviously want this top quality European manager and potentially why he would come to West Ham. It's a massive job, though. Now, it's been long and been inevitable that he would take up one of Europe's biggest jobs, winning the title with Sporting Lisbon back in 2021 and at the age of 36, all but guaranteed that. And the fact that he is on course to repeat that in 2024 only really underlines his ability as a footballing coach. And that's why they put in a huge release clause after his really good start to management at Braga. And they bet on his mindset, his tactical mindset, his fierce commitment as a player. But more than anything, it seems to be his personality keeps coming through. And that could be one of the key points to his coaching style. Now, Sky Sports did a little bit of a due diligence on Amorim and actually spoke to some of the ex-coaches and people that that worked alongside him and why he could be a very top-level managers. What's interesting is most of them came out and said that his personality was the key element. What people might not know is that he was a player that was part of a very good Benfica team, winning 3 league titles in Lisbon. He was good enough to make Portugal's World Cup squad in 2010, but he was more remembered as a hard worker in the midfield or sometimes even at a right back. But he was a team player. He was a team player that brought the squad together. And because of his injury, it forced him to retire really early, and that fast-tracked him onto the coaching path, which seems to happen with a lot of players who retire early as well. And he was in the 3rd tier of the Portuguese league, but he was forced to resign with the club facing punishment because he did not have the required license. Very similar situation to the Will Still situation. A lot of coaches getting a lot of experience early doors. And I think that possibly benefits them, whether they've got the coaching badges or not, is just to get that experience under the belt. And he rejected a role with Benfica's B team, opting to take Braga's instead, where he would have more control. He ascended into the top job within months, taking him from 8th to 3rd, going unbeaten in the league and winning the Taça da Liga. Sporting were then so convinced that they quickly came in and paid the 8-figure buyout clause at the time, making him one of the most expensive managerial hires in history. But he repaid them with their first title in 19 years in his first full season. And they are a chaotic club, and he brought calm and trophies. Now, he has said that he loved watching AC Milan, the great AC Milan days of the 90s, and one of his favourite coaches at the time was Jose Mourinho. He even visited Jose Mourinho during his time at Manchester United in 2018 to try and learn from, I suppose you could say, a master or a former master. But what really, again, comes out is about his personality and his work ethic. Now, some of his compatriots, some of his even rivals and coaches say his teams are really organized and they fight. He's always trying to improve his players. He works with young talent, but is also with experienced players as well. And he makes sure they all have the one thing in common, and that is that they fight and that they are intense. My word, I've just mentioned the word intense in a world of West Ham head coaching, something we don't see, but when we see it, we love it. We love it. And it could be a game changer. Doesn't mean it's going to change overnight, but it could be a game changer. And like I said, his character and his leadership that helped him turn things around so quickly in all of his jobs that he's ever had in coaching. And his charisma is what shines through. And it seems to be that he wins a lot of favors and a lot of players over by his communication skills. It's really, really good. His message is clear. He makes it very easy to understand. He makes it and simplifies it for the players so they can go out and execute their job as much as they possibly can. He's got a very good positive mindset. He's got a good mentality. He's got a good relationship between the board, the players, the fans, and I think that's possibly where you saw him, you know, get annoyed with himself for doing what he did when he would have, apprehended and dealt with a player if they had done that as well. So there's no doubt about his reputation as a player or a coach. And what's in he's had to really work at the young squads, the young academies of Sporting Lisbon. When Benfica could, be the main crop of talent coming through, he really has spring forward the Sporting Lisbon Academy. And he's looking at the talent and he's ensuring that they progress through the ranks. Something, again, we're not heavily and taking up the job at Sporting Lisbon when you had, say, for example, Bruno Fernandes leaving to go to Manchester United just before Amorim came in, what he's done is he's built a brand new team, a better team. There's a credential that we're looking for, a rebuild, when we could potentially be losing a lot of players. And he's a kind of coach who likes to bet on young players. And some of those notable players that you might recognize, Pedro Porro, now at Spurs, formerly of Manchester City on loan from them. Mateus Nunes, now at Manchester City. They were introduced into the midfield. Thiago Thomas and Nuno Mendes were blooded in from the academy. And Pedro Convalcas, who fired Sporting to glory that season. Mendes left for Paris Saint-Germain at the end of that campaign. Yeah, Yao Paulinho, who of course West Ham were interested in bringing in, went alongside to the Premier League alongside Nunes the following year. But that brought in, even though that brought a dip in results, it brought in big profits. So he knew how to work the system. He knew how to bed young into the senior team and also create profit for many of the high flying owners of these clubs. And all he does is go from strength to strength as a coach. He brings through, he may sell on for a profit. Not everyone, but a lot. And then he finds new talent. English winger Marcus Edwards, striker that came from Coventry, Victor Gyökeres in the summer. His goals have taken Sporting Lisbon to the top. And their formation remains the same. It's the base of which he works. It's difficult because he always plays with that line of five. Others would describe it as a 3-4-3 formation in possession. When they're defending, it is a 5-2-3. And he likes to have technical players in the forward line with the two wingers, Edwards and Goncalves. Edwards is having a fantastic season, but the biggest surprise here is the player that he brought in from Coventry. He's so strong and he's so fast. And he scores goals. The issue is he'll have a big release clause, so even if Amorim does come to West Ham, I don't think we could afford him. Anyway, Ruben does have tactical flexibility. He bases it on the opponent, particularly in Europe, and he always considers the weaknesses of the opponent. He plays a high defensive line most of the time, which can be risky, but you need pace, you need speed, you need strength, you need ability, you need that tenacity, and he is good with those transitions. And it's still a positive game, kind of based or heavily based on possession. And that arrogance in his playing style is very positive for young players because they have no fear mentality. They absolutely don't. And that's what helps them grow as individuals. And it's easy to see why many clubs, in particular West Ham, would be wanting to bring someone like him, which is why I find it so intriguing that West Ham have actually been able to, if true, bring him in, bring him and speak to him, bring him to the club and speak to him. That's what makes this whole thing interesting. Ruben is smart, he's a clever guy, and he's definitely waiting to take that right step, waiting for a team where he can have success. But can he have success at West Ham? Is he willing to do another rebuild? Is he thinking that he's past that? He's got the confidence, he's got the ability. Does he have the balls to make that jump into the Premier League? Listen, it doesn't always work out. A manager that people always forget about is, I'll give you one as an example, Andre Villas-Boas, when he took the Chelsea job after just one season at Porto. In a sense, you could say Amorim has avoided that era by continuous education with Sporting Lisbon this long. You know, mirroring, you could say, the Xabi Alonso idea of staying at Bayer Leverkusen. But I think he is a potential special coach. Is he the new special one? Should we go all out and try and bring him in? The key intriguing part of this whole video that I've done on Amorim is there is some pathway opened to conversations. It looks like West Ham are going to try and push the boat out to bring him in. Who knows? Who knows where the future lies? Let me know your thoughts. Come on, your hands.